Okay, here we're going to be dealing with Chapter 8 in Week 6. We're going to be dealing with communication. And there's a lot to cover here, but it's all common sense stuff. Okay, the first thing is one of these demotivator prints. Meetings, none of us is as dumb as all of us. Well, you know, part of the reason that we have this kind of thing where we kind of talk past each other is because we're not really communicating. So we want to make sure that we're doing it right. Communication. So communication is and I really like this definition. This is one of the better definitions that I've seen in any textbook. The evoking of a shared or common meaning in another person. Evoking, that is, you're drawing out a shared meaning by the way that you talk or communicate or what you write or whatever else. Interpersonal communication means it's between two or more people. Okay, between two or more. Okay. If you're just thinking about it yourself, that's not interpersonal communication. Communicator is the person originating the message. That's the person sending the message. The receiver is the person receiving the message. That's pretty easy. Perceptual screen is a window through which we interact with people that influences the quality, accuracy, and clarity of the communication. That's the perceptual screen. It's also sometimes in other places you'll find it as noise. It's some things that interfere with. Okay, the message is what I'm sending or what I'm trying to evoke in the other person, what I'm attempting to elicit in the receiver. And then the feedback loop is what the pathway that completes the two-way communication. So I say something to you like I am now, and you're hearing it, and then you're understanding it. Now, if you were in a class, you would maybe talk back to me about it and explain what it is so that I know that you know. That would be a feedback loop. Okay, and a language is the words that we use, how we pronounce it, the language, whether it's in English or Lithuanian or whatever it is, the type of words that we choose in the process as well. Those things are all part of the language. And data is the uninterpreted facts as opposed to information, which is data that has been interpreted and analyzed. There's a difference between data and information. Data is just raw. It's just there. Information is what we do when we try to get our arms around it. And then richness is the ability of a medium to using the right channel in order to evoke meaning. So whether you're talking, whether you're reading, whether it's coming through a different method, and I'll talk about that as well. So here's the model, the sender. This is the sender, and the sender is going to send the message, and the message is going to go through the channel, and it's going to go to the receiver, who's going to receive the message. He's going to decode the message, understand what it means, and then give feedback by perhaps asking a question to the sender. It's a very simple process. And what gets in the way is noise. In our context, noise might be a language barrier, right? If you're not a native English speaker, this might be difficult. And I grew up just outside of New York City. I grew up about 20 miles from New York City. So I tend to speak at a very rapid pace. And I'm sorry about that. Hopefully you can go back and listen to other parts if that doesn't, if I've spoken too fast for you, I apologize. But that's part of noise. That's part of what is interfering with your understanding. Okay, so communications, media, information, richness, and data capacity. So you want to look at the medium. You can have all kinds of ways to send a message. It can be face-to-face. It can be telephone. It can be email. It can be an individualized letter, a memo, a formal written report, or a bulletin or flyer, right? Now, the highest information richness is going to come from those face-to-face kind of things. So as I'm communicating to you right now, I chose to do these little lecturettes instead of just giving you a PowerPoint, because this will have higher richness. You can get some things from my tone and the way that I describe things that you wouldn't get out of just the PowerPoint itself. Okay? But it would be best if I was there in the classroom where we could interact. And it would be worst if it was just written into a formal written report. Right? The book is not enough. You need more interaction. So then there's reflective listening. Reflective listening is a skill of listening to another. Okay, really listening so that that person is heard. Okay, this is a complex process. It needs to be really understood, and if you don't reflectively listen, the person will not feel heard. And it's funny, but we humans, if we don't feel like you care or feel like you understand, it doesn't matter if you actually do. We don't care. We want you to we want to know, we want to have it resonate that you understand something. Okay, so reflective listening, it emphasizes the receiver's role in the process. It helps the receiver and the communicator clearly and fully understand the message. Okay, that is, the person sends it and the receiver reflects and says back to it, and it's useful in problem solving. So here's reflective listening. There's 4 levels of verbal responses. Yes, I understand. So you ask me a question and I affirm, yeah, okay, I understand. Is that, so you're saying this, I'm paraphrasing back to you, okay, I understand. And so you are saying X, Y, and Z. And then I'm clarifying and bringing out anything that may make sure I'm getting the whole meaning. Because sometimes you say something and there are some like unspoken thoughts that aren't necessarily said, but I need to grab. And then you're also making sure that you're grabbing the real message, the core of the message as well. Okay, one-way communication is very different than two-way communication. Right now, this is one-way communication. Okay, I am sending a message, and there's no feedback loop really. I mean, we'll get some feedback and some testing, but there's really not a feedback loop. Okay, it's good for giving simple directions, but it's not really good when you really need to clarify a lot. And so I'm doing the best that we can at a distance. If I have to clarify something, it'll be by email, or maybe we'll set up a Skype chat or something along those lines. Two-way communication is really good for problem solving. In fact, I'm very much, so when I get an email at work, what I'll often do is I will look at the email, and if I can just type a simple message back and solve the problem, I'll do it. If I can't do it, if I think I'm going to have 2 or more rounds, I will get up and go to that person's office, because in doing that, we can get that two-way communication and solve it much more quickly than with many rounds. Barriers to communication include things like, well, just factors that block or keep us from understanding each other. And that could be a host of things. You could be in another building or another country. Physical separation can be a barrier. Status differences, and this is particularly true in some societies where those status differences mean a lot. In other societies, I don't care if you're a CEO. In the US, we have a very different way of looking at authority. Authority is it has to be merit based. Just because you occupy a high position, not really impressed by it. But if you occupy that high position because you earned your way there, that's different. We may very much more respect that. So status differences may get in the way, particularly in cultures that really revere those status differences. Gender differences may get in the way. You'll see a video with that as well. And you know, sometimes we just speak different languages or think differently, rationally as opposed to emotionally or whatever. Cultural diversity as well. I mean, I may be saying something, and please don't take offense if I do somewhere along the line. Say something that culturally you would have taken as an affront. I didn't mean it. I wasn't trying to offend anybody, but I didn't realize it. I've done that. When I was in Lithuania once, I did that, and I stepped all over myself and didn't realize that I was offending because I didn't understand the cultural differences between our two societies. And language barriers can also get in the way. There's a reason why I'm not speaking in Lithuanian, because I mean, I have like 2 words, okay? It's labas and toiletas, and I couldn't do this in Lithuanian if I wanted to. Okay, gateways to communication. So here we have some things that could get in the way in the process, and we're going to look at ways that we can remedy that. So communication gateways are antidotes. Think of this as fixing the problem. So if you have a physical separation, well, have regular meetings. If you have status differences, well, think about how you're managing other people, especially if you're the boss, right? How are you managing other people? Are they happy to see you, or when they say, hey, the boss is there, they go, oh no, right? I mean, just think about that. You can control that a lot more when you're in the position of power than when you're not, but this is a way of fixing that. Gender differences can be overcome as well just by being aware and communicating appropriately. Cultural differences, again, awareness and sensitivity. Language gateways, you can speak more clearly. I try to choose my words to speak in clear language and avoid jargon or technical language, but it doesn't always work. But to the degree that you can do this, you can overcome these issues. Okay, so this is, we have just a couple more topics. One is defensive communication. When you find people are being defensive, that is that they're coming across as aggressive or angry, or maybe they're passive and withdrawing, that's a sign that something went wrong somewhere. Generally, you want to just exchange information, but if you see something that is coming across defensively, yeah, somebody's feelings were hurt, or something's wrong, and you want to look, are there hurt feelings, alienation, is there a problem that needs to be solved? This is a cause and an effect. This can cause defensive communication and can lead to further miscommunication. So non-defensive communication is assertive, it's direct, it's powerful, it's trying to get to the point generally, and it's also preserving the relationship. Now, defensive communication is different, and it comes in two forms. One is subordinate defensiveness. That's passive or withdrawing, just kind of checking out. And then there's another one that's dominant. That's active, that's aggressive, that's attacking. And you don't need to either check out or attack. And if you're doing either of those things, or you got to check yourself and see what's going on. Why am I doing this? Or if you see somebody doing that, understand that something's wrong and it needs to be fixed. Defensive tactics, bosses will do the power play. Well, you better finish this or else. Or a put down. Well, if you were really a good employee. Or maybe labeling somebody like, he's kind of a dunce. He's a little slow. Or raising doubts about your ability to do things. Those are defensive tactics. And again, that's a sign of something bad. And more defensive tactics would be misleading information, or maybe not giving the whole truth, or scapegoating, blaming someone. That's what scapegoating means. Or hostile jokes, making fun of something, or if you're just outright deceiving, making something up that's not true, that's a defensive tactic. Again, anything that gets in the way of clarity, of actually working through the process, is usually a bad sign. Nonverbal communication comes in four types. Proxemics is the use of space. Kinesthetics is body movements, including posture. Facial and eye behavior is important as well. Movements that, so in a classroom, I'm looking at this particularly to read faces with my students to see if you're paying attention, or whether you've checked out, or if you have a question. And paralanguage is like the pitch, the loudness, the tempo, as you speak. Do you speak very high, or do you speak very softly? Or that's paralanguage. Okay? And then, so proxemics, when you're dealing with space, it's different in different cultures, but usually it's something like this in the Western culture, where our intimate space is 1.5 feet, and then maybe 1.5 to 4 feet out. And again, you're probably on metric, so I'm not exactly sure how to say this. But, if you're in about an arm's distance, that's my intimate space. And I've been in other countries where people just violate that intimate space and, whoa, just back off. But it's fine for them, because culturally that's what they're used to. But I want that space because, well, I'm an American. That's what I'm used to. So be aware of those kind of issues. Communicative disease is the absence of heartfelt communication in human relationships. Just be heartfelt, be true, be honest, care. People know whether you care or don't care. The last thing is communication technology. These are how you use this. There's a lot of ways that you can use modern technology in order to communicate. But what you really need to do, let me skip through this and go to the last slide. What you really need to do is choose the right thing for the right circumstance. Face-to-face is the highest, richest form. When you need to deliver bad news or something really important, face-to-face is often good. If you need to leave a memo, to leave a paper trail, that's fine. But don't use a memo or an email or something like that to break up with your girlfriend. It's not cool, okay? Man up, do the face-to-face thing if that's what's going on. Okay, so you got to choose what that is in the proper circumstances. Okay, that's a lot of common sense stuff to talk about communication. Thank you for your time, and I'll talk to you soon.